got back with my toxic ex. Nate and I had been together for 2 years, and I thought I knew what happy looked like. My roommate Courtney was my best friend since middle school, and she was always around us. Then one night, Nate and I were curled up on the couch watching a movie, and he paused it out of nowhere. He turned to me with this look on his face that I had never seen before. "Why did you tell Courtney you feel suffocated by me?" I remember the light from the TV flickering across his face while I tried to process what he just said. I never said that to anyone. He told me Courtney brought it up because she was worried. I watched his jaw clench while he waited for an answer I didn't have. Our anniversary came, and I made a reservation at the Italian place where we had our first date. I showed up early and ordered the bruschetta he always gets. I remember watching the candle flicker on the table while I checked my phone every few minutes. An hour passed. The waiter came by 3 times asking if I was ready to order, and each time I smiled and said I was still waiting for someone. Couples around me were laughing and clinking glasses, and I was sitting there alone with an empty chair across from me. I finally called Nate, and when he picked up, he sounded confused. "Babe, you told me you canceled." My heart sank. I never said that. I drove home crying so hard I could barely see the road. Courtney was already waiting at the door with tea and a blanket like she knew I was coming. She held me on the couch until I fell asleep. After that night, everything with Nate changed. He stopped texting me good morning. When I finally saw him again, I sat down next to him on the couch, and he moved to the other end. I reached for his hand, and he actually flinched. I asked him what was going on, and he just stared at the floor. "I'm trying to give you space." I told him I never asked for space. He looked up at me, and his eyes were so tired. That's not what I heard. I didn't know what that meant. I called Courtney sobbing that night, and she said maybe Nate wasn't who I thought he was. She told me to stop reaching out and let him come to me, so I did. He never came. Things got worse from there. We started fighting over everything. One night, he looked at me with tears in his eyes and said, "It feels like you don't even want me around anymore." I wanted to hold him, but something in my head kept saying he was the problem. Our last fight was the worst. He stood in my living room with his hands shaking and said, "I feel like I'm losing you, and I don't know why." I told him maybe we needed space. He just stared at me for a long time. Then he nodded and walked out the door. Courtney came out of her room before I even sat down. She wrapped her arms around me and whispered, "I'm so proud of you for putting yourself first." I ran into Nate at a coffee shop a while later. He looked broken. We talked, and he said, "You texted me that you canceled our anniversary dinner." I told him I never sent that. He showed me his phone. There it was, a text from my number that I didn't write. He scrolled and showed me more. Someone had been texting him from my phone telling him I felt trapped and needed him to back off. Courtney always had access to my phone. I told Nate to come to my apartment. When we walked in, Courtney wasn't home. I went to her room to look for my charger, and I froze in the doorway. The wall above her bed was covered in photos of me, Polaroids, screenshots printed out, pictures I never knew she took, me sleeping, me in the shower through a crack in the door. But the worst part was the photos that weren't from this apartment. They were from high school, from college, from every place I had ever lived. There were names written on sticky notes under some of them. I recognized every single one. They were all my exes. Every guy I had ever dated had a photo crossed out with a red marker. Nate saw it too. "She's been doing this your whole life," he said quietly. That's when the front door opened. Courtney walked in and saw us in her doorway. Her face went calm. "You weren't ready to see that yet." I asked her what this was. She stepped closer. "I protected you from all of them. Every single one. They all would have hurt you eventually." She smiled at me like I was supposed to thank her. "You always came back to me. You always will." She lunged at Nate with scissors from her desk. He caught her wrist and they clattered to the floor. "You're ruining everything I built for us," she screamed while I called 911. The police dragged her out in handcuffs while she sobbed my name. Every ex I ever had reached out after I posted what happened. She had contacted all of them too.